Hi all, I'm Julia, and I'm here to demonstrate the approach that led to my perfect GMAT focus score on a new type of critical reasoning question. This week's theme is argument evaluation questions. I remember running into several of these on my GMAT, so they are very important to master. We're going to look at a couple of examples from TTP just to get a feel for it. Let's start with an easy problem. Side-by-side tests of fruits and vegetables grown using conventional and organic methods have found no significant differences between the levels of key nutrients in the conventionally grown produce and the levels of those nutrients in the organically grown produce. Thus, there is no reason to believe that there is any health benefit to be derived from eating organically grown produce rather than conventionally grown produce. In order to evaluate the argument, it would be most useful to determine which of the following. In these questions, we're evaluating the quality of arguments, and because of the way the GMAT works, where we have to take the evidence as true, the only place we have much room to challenge an argument is in the assumptions. Let's find our conclusion, which is here after thus. Which of these answer choices would affect the relationship between this conclusion and these premises most strongly? A. Whether fruits and vegetables that are grown using organic methods taste different from those grown using conventional methods. This answer is about taste, but the argument is about health benefits. A good test to employ with these types of questions is to test the choice as true and see if it changes the argument, and then test the choice as false and see if it changes the argument in a different way. Whether or not the conventionally and organically grown fruits taste different doesn't strengthen or weaken the author's conclusion, so this isn't our answer. B. Whether plants take in nutrients from the soil as a necessary aspect of their growth processes. If the plants take in nutrients as part of their growth or not is a different issue than the health benefits humans would get from consuming the same plants. It sounds similar enough to be tempting, but it's talking about a different part of the plant's life cycle than we're talking about in the argument. C. Whether conventionally grown produce contains significant levels of health-harming chemicals that organically grown produce does not contain. Okay, if conventionally grown produce contains health-harming chemicals that organically grown produce does not, then there would be a health benefit to be derived from eating organic produce. If this statement is true, it weakens the argument. If this statement is false and there aren't any health-harming chemicals, that would strengthen the argument by removing a potential concern. Whether or not this answer is true affects the argument's quality, so this answer would be useful in evaluating the argument. C. Whether the differences between the prices of most organically grown produce and those of most conventionally grown produce are justified. We're talking about health benefits, so we're not talking about prices in this argument. This is not our answer. Whether the methods used in farming organically grown produce are more labor intensive than those used in farming conventionally grown produce. Again, we're just talking about the health benefits here. Farm labor intensity is the purview of another argument, not this one. Our best answer is C. What do we have next? A survey of Springfield homeowners revealed that many who were selling their homes were doing so without the help of a real estate agent because they thought agent commissions to be too high. As a result, half of the real estate agents in Springfield reduced their commission rate from 8% to 6% in order to attract more clients. Those who reduced their rate sold the same number of homes in the year after the reduction as they did in the year before. Clearly, the real estate agents who reduced their rate didn't realize any benefits from doing so. In evaluating the argument, it would be most useful to determine which of the following. Our conclusion is here after the word clearly. So half of the agents lowered their rate, 2%, but those agents sold the same number of houses after lowering their rate than they did the year before they lowered it. The author thinks these agents didn't benefit from the lowered rates. Let's assess the answer choices and see which one affects the argument most strongly. A. Whether going to a 4% commission rate would have helped the real estate agents to attract more clients. This is a common answer trap type that you're going to run into on the GMAT, especially in DI questions. It discusses something that's a little too far out of range, but might seem like the data could be generalized to cover this. We're talking about an 8% drop from 8% to 6% drop. So a 4% drop is not in scope for this argument. B, whether the houses that were sold with the help of an agent sold at an average price higher than that of the houses that were sold without the help of an agent. This would be more important to someone who was considering using a real estate agent, but we're looking at whether these real estate agents benefited from changing their rates specifically in the context of the number of houses they sold, not the total price of the houses. C, whether the agents who did not reduce their commission rates experienced a reduction in the number of houses that they sold. This would be helpful to know the answer to. If the agents that kept their rates at 8% didn't experience a reduction, then the conclusion is strengthened. If they did experience a reduction and the agents that lowered their rates kept their home sales the same while the other agents sold less homes, then the agents who lowered their rates would have experienced a benefit from doing so, which would weaken the conclusion. D, whether a new survey of Springfield homeowners indicates that they feel that the new rates are more reasonable than the higher rates. Again, this is about the customer's experience, but we're talking about the agent's experience. And E, whether the agents who reduced their rates sold more than half of the houses sold in Springfield during the year after the agents reduced their rate. This doesn't really help us because we don't know how many houses those agents sold previously, so a percentage now with no percentage to compare it to would not be illuminating. Our best answer is C. Let's do one more question. In many urban areas called food deserts, there are no local stores that offer large selections of fresh, healthy to eat food. In order to improve the health of residents of such areas, cities are offering incentives to encourage the opening of large food stores with comprehensive selections of food in areas that are currently considered food deserts. The answer to which of the following questions would be most useful for evaluating the likelihood of success of these initiatives? Okay, here's the situation. There are these food deserts in urban areas, and cities are offering incentives to encourage large food stores that offer a diverse selection of healthy foods to move in. The purpose of offering incentives is to increase the citizens' consumption of health promoting foods by overcoming the obstacle of availability. We're trying to determine how successful this plan will be. Let's see what the answers have to offer. A, what percentage of the population of cities that would offer the incentives is represented by people who reside in food desert type areas? This isn't helpful. Whether it improved the health of 1% of the city's population or 90%, it would still improve the health of the people. B, how many studies of the effectiveness of offering incentives to encourage the opening of large food stores with comprehensive selections in food deserts have been undertaken? This answer runs into the same problem. Whether there have been 0 studies or hundreds, it doesn't change how successful this plan will be. What the studies say might be helpful, but this answer is only about the number of studies, so it is useless. C, Do companies that operate large food stores cite lack of demand as the reason they have not previously opened food stores in food desert type areas? If these large stores aren't opening in food deserts because there's no demand, then incentivizing them to open in food deserts won't improve the health of the people there because they still wouldn't purchase the food. They don't have a demand for it. If lack of demand isn't a reason that the large food stores aren't opening, then there could be a demand for this food and the citizens' health could be improved. The answer to this question would affect our argument. D. Can the cities with the greatest percentages of their areas considered food deserts afford to offer incentives to encourage the opening of food stores with comprehensive selections in food deserts? This this answer is about the budget, but the argument is not about the budget. See, cities are offering incentives to encourage the opening of large food stores. So these cities are offering these incentives. How they budget for them is their concern, but we know that they are offering them. We are taking that as fact. So the answer to this question is not relevant. E. How often does the average person who lives in an urban area considered a food desert shop for food? How often someone shops for food could maybe be tied into the argument in some way, but it's not direct enough because I mean, they sell vegetables fresh and frozen. If people shop every day, then it would it would help them. If they shop once a month and it's still more convenient, then it could still promote health in these citizens' lives. So the answer to this one isn't terribly helpful either way. Best answer is C. Assumptions play a very big part in this type of CR question. If you find yourself struggling to see the connection between the prompt and the answer choices, that's what I'd recommend brushing up on first. I actually have a different video on assumptions if you want to go ahead and check that out as part of the process. Thank you so much. Good luck, and I will see you next time.